New analysis from the Washington Post is undercutting President Trump's claim that vandals cut up the Lincoln Memorial's reflecting pool, leading to all that peeling. According to the Post, those who did the renovating made major mistakes when applying the newly painted lining. Jarrett Lay, visual forensics reporter for the Washington Post, joins us now. Jarrett, thanks for joining us. So we're showing this map from the Post reporting, if we could put that up, guys. Explain how you and your team discovered that the way this painting was coated is likely what caused the peeling.
Hi, Jake. Thank you so much. Yes, so we surveyed the pool in the end of June, and we located the 7 moments of coating failure that you see highlighted here. We then compared that with satellite imagery as well as photos and videos that were taken during the construction process. This helped us identify that all 7 of these locations take place along seams that are forged during the meeting of 2 rectangular coating sections that are put down one after the other. We brought this information to 4 experts in waterproof coating who told us that while no precise diagnosis can be made without being on site or with lab testing, that it is strongly indicative of an application failure made during the construction process.
Could this have been avoided?
All the experts that we spoke to gave varying recommendations as to different methodologies. The key in putting down coating at a scale such as this, something that was made clear to my colleagues and I at the Post, was that this is a very large project, and it's a major challenge whenever you're putting down multiple sections of coating with very sensitive curing and drying times at the same time.
How did the White House take the Post's findings?
They continued to stand by the fact that this was an action, or rather that this was a failure caused by vandals.
So the reflecting pool has been drained again. President Trump says it will be refilled and put back into service soon. But until then, we have a clear view of its bottom after that $14 million renovation. Since the project's completion, the pool has been plagued by algae blooms and peeling blue material, which Trump has repeatedly blamed vandals for. His administration has promised to offer proof, too.
And you're 100% sure that what happened with the liner was vandalism? You can prove it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely can. And as we drain it, we've got all the photographs we can see.
CNN's Tom Foreman joins us now with the latest on this. Tom, the president claiming there's a 300-yard slash at the bottom of the reflecting pool. That's 900 feet. Could you see it from these images?
Well, I think it was 300 feet, but nonetheless, the number has squished around.
He did say yards.
Look, you would think if you're going to make a claim like this that is going to be greeted dubiously, you would think that you would say, when we drain it, let's have the cameras up close, let's walk them over and show the damage. That is not what has happened, nor can you see from the images that we have seen any sign of a long gash being in the bottom of this pool. It just hasn't been there. More importantly, and this is complicated, I guess maybe it's simple, what Trump said in May versus what he said in June about this new liner, radically different. Listen to the contrast.
It's very strong. You couldn't, if you had a knife, I don't want to give anybody ideas. If you had a knife, you can't even cut it. So strong, so powerful. You know, we have I think 290, 300-foot slit right through it, probably a box cutter or a knife of some kind.
So he literally says you can't damage it with the knife, and a month later says, obviously somebody took a knife and cut it open, and they've offered zero proof of this. They just say it. Yes, some people have been charged with doing something, but there's been no evidence that, we got the guy with the knife or the box cutter and this is what he did and here's video or here's anything else.
Right, they're not being charged with anything like that. It's also notable that in typical Trump fashion, the number keeps growing, because he said feet there in a recent social media post, it was 300 yards.
All over the map on that. And on top of which, all of this draws people away from one of the really key questions here. Is the real issue here that this job was rushed out in a no-bid contract, that some of the work went to people who had political ties to Trump, even though the administration says, Brian, he had nothing to do with any of that. And was it put out too fast and tried with none of the outside oversight you would normally have? Is that to blame? As long as you keep saying it's all about vandals, then you kind of don't have to address that issue.
Also, I'm not a pool expert, but just having read about this, it was also the fact that part of the renovation didn't include something that had attempted to be renovated before, which was some of the piping and the filtering to get the algae out. It was seemingly a done deal when that wasn't addressed, that there was going to be additional algae because the water would flow there.
There's been talk about that very issue, and also some inclination along the way to say, well, and the algae too, that had something to do with vandals. And there's just no evidence of this. Whether people support President Trump or not, all these claims about the pool, so far we have nothing to back it up, and as the water goes down, we don't see anything to back it up, other than they're going to repair it. The company that did the work has basically said whatever's gone wrong is just a natural thing, part of the warranty. They're going to fix it and then move forward. So maybe they'll fix it, maybe they'll refill it, maybe there won't be any algae. But that still doesn't answer the question as to why we got here in the first place after a $14 million job.
Defense attorneys accused the Trump administration of using a former Olympian as a scapegoat for the problems plaguing the reflecting pool after a $14 million renovation. Lawyers for David Hearn made the remarks after he pleaded not guilty during his arraignment in D.C. this morning. Hearn is facing a felony charge for allegedly causing more than $1,000 in damage to the pool, which has been suffering from a peeling bottom and algae in the water.
If Mr. Hearn can be charged with a felony for touching the reflecting pool, every American is at risk. And every American should be alarmed about this prosecution.
Hearn's attorney told the judge today that the prosecution's case is weak. Last month, after his arrest, the former Olympian canoeist explained to CNN his version of what happened.
I took my left hand glove off and reached down into the water and sort of felt the end and bent it around a little bit.
With us now, former federal judge John E. Jones III. He's the president of Dickinson College. Judge, thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. So when Hearn's attorney calls the government's evidence weak, is that a fair assessment?
Well, Boris, first of all, it's good to be with you. We don't know at this point. Maybe Norm Eisen, who's an exemplary lawyer, knows more than I do or we do about the case. But the government has a pretty high burden here to convict Mr. Hearn of a felony crime. And you would think that if there was some kind of smoking gun evidence, we would have seen it already. They're claiming they have a lot, but we've not seen it. Now, they're going to have to turn that over, obviously, to the defense.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of evidence would bolster the government's argument here that he caused more than $1,000 worth of property damage.
Well, they've got to show a couple elements, Boris. One is that, obviously, per the statute, it has to be malicious or hostile. So it's done with intent to damage, in this case, the coating, and it has to be damage of over $1,000. And I'm really not sure how they're going to be able to prove that. You know, you and I may not have dipped our hands in the pool and you know, grabbed a piece of the coating that came off, but you know, something that might not be a good act by somebody is not necessarily a crime, obviously. And this is a serious crime. It's a felony crime under the D.C. Code. And Mr. Eisen, I'm quite sure, and I know Norm Eisen, he's a very good lawyer, as I said, he's going to fight this tooth and nail, and he's going to put the prosecution to the test in this case. Other defendants might plead it out. He's not going to plead this one out. He's going to take it to the mat, so to speak.
To your point about the seriousness of the charge, it could carry a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison if he's convicted. I mean, if he is convicted, and as you said, we haven't seen evidence from the prosecution yet, so that is a step that is further down the road. But if he is, do you anticipate he would serve any time behind bars?
I can't imagine. He apparently has a very clean record. He's an upstanding citizen. A lot of people went to the hearing today and spoke up for him. And again, you know, Boris, to talk about the crime, you've got to show that he showed up at the reflecting pool and formed an intent to peel off a piece of the coating, which, you know, by every account was coming off anyway. And he did that with the intent to damage the reflecting pool and that the damages were above $1,000. Now, if that piece was off already, pretty tough to prove any damages. Mr. Eisen is saying that it's a scapegoat. At first blush, it certainly looks like that. So the government has quite a lot that they're going to have to prove in this case.
President Trump threatening prison time for anyone damaging renovated sites in the nation's capital, writing, "Security is watching very carefully for the almost 70 other monuments, statues, and fountains that we renovated throughout Washington, D.C. If anyone attacks any of them, they get as much as 10 years in jail. In any event, go check it out. The reflecting pool is magnificent." Well, it comes as we're learning more about what was a very little-known company that is now trying to save the reflecting pool from an algae infestation. Sunlen Sarfati is out front.
In the middle of the political tidal wave, this man is in charge of keeping water in the reflecting pool crystal clear.
We've never done a pool, but the water is relatively the same as the water that you would see out in a regular lake somewhere, right? You're treating it for algae and bacteria.
How clean does President Trump want to get this project?
I don't know the answer to that question yet, but since it was really blue last week, I think he liked that.
In his first TV interview, Chaz Antonone, the CEO of Green Water Services, defended its patented ozone nanobubbler, a new technology that's costing $1.7 million and that the Trump administration is building as the state-of-the-art fix for the algae-ridden pool.
Ozone is 3,000 times faster and 50 times more powerful than chlorine. And it's able to stay in the water, travel through the water, find the toxins that it needs. That's why we're able to treat it from both ends and treat the whole pool.
But the project has been plagued with other problems too, from the new blue bottom peeling up to Trump blaming without evidence left-wing vandals.
The reflecting pool is so beautiful, they tried to destroy it.
Prompting Trump to announce they'll need to drain the pool again.
We'll fix it right after the 4th of July.
Meanwhile, the small Ohio company has been thrust into the national spotlight for their role.
What's your understanding of why the original bloom happened?
How it happened, I don't know. It could be, some of it could have come from the pipes. Could somebody have dumped some stuff in there? Anything's possible in the middle of the night.
In April, the company was given a no-bid contract from the Trump administration, bypassing a competitive bidding process. The company's co-owner is J.J. Cafaro, a longtime supporter and donor to President Trump and neighbor living near his Mar-a-Lago club.
J.J. Cafaro from Florida and from Cleveland. He's a man who made a lot of money in Cleveland, does a good job, and a fantastic man.
In 2001, Cafaro pleaded guilty to conspiracy to bribe Representative James Traficant and separately pleaded guilty in 2010 for a campaign finance violation. The Interior Department says the White House was not involved in the selection process for any contract and did not weigh in on the company selected, full stop. And the company has also tried to distance itself from Cafaro, saying he is an Ohio-based businessman who invested in the Ohio-based company after the owner showed him research done on local Ohio bodies of water. A spokesperson for the company said he has no involvement in the day-to-day operations. Earlier this month, Cafaro defended his company's technology, saying he believes the public scrutiny over the reflecting pool is from people who don't seem to like Trump.
And there's been some speculation that the Trump administration perhaps possibly added to the problems down here at the reflecting pool. There had been 4 temporary ozone nanobubbler machines that were seen in the reflecting pool behind me, but those were instructed by the National Park Service to be taken out for a 24-hour period in mid-June. And that was the same time that the president had hosted a big UFC photo op down here on the National Mall. Now, meantime, the company has said that the permanent nano ozone technology is in place. It was actually installed off of the reflecting pool. You'll see in this area behind me, that is where the permanent machine is in place, and we got exclusive photos of that being installed.